Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Engine Builder Show. Our topic today will be about how to indoctrinate a culture of performance in your marketing efforts. Thank you to all the viewers tuning in and enjoy the show. Good morning, everybody.
There was always a ton to learn. For as many times as I have talked to people and realized that they have no marketing going on, and so of course they're not getting any marketing results, I have just as often spoken to folks when they have all this marketing activity going on, but they're not getting effective results and they're not sure where they're investing their money or why they're doing it or if it's working or not, because it's just very convoluted. And I think that's a common thing that can happen at various stages of building a business, of running, campaigns, of different things like that. So it's very easy to fall into that, but it doesn't have to be that murky. It also doesn't have to be scary to start a brand new marketing initiative if you understand how to really have a culture of high performance in your marketing efforts. And so the first thing that's really critical in getting great results from how you invest your time and effort and money into marketing is getting really clear on the result that you want. And as simple as that sounds, there's so many times where I've either seen people say, oh, I need to do marketing, so we're going to do it and figure it out. And they don't know what they're clearly aiming at. And there's plenty of times where I've walked in and seen people running campaigns and they don't know why they're running them or what the results are getting either. So whether you're starting that new campaign or whether you're in the middle of doing marketing and you're just not sure what's going on, odds are you don't have a clear standard of the result that you want. So one of the things that we try to do, and it's almost always possible, there's always some exceptions, and there's iterations and changes inside of projects and campaigns that we run. One of the things we try to identify in the beginning is, what is the single success metric for your campaign? Is it the number of people that are going to call you? If we're running campaigns for home service contractors, landscapers, HVAC, electricians, plumbers, really anybody in the contracting space, we often will measure how many phone calls can we generate from our Facebook ads, our Google ads, direct mail, the things that are sending out. Other times we are trying to measure for a client how many form submission, contact forms, or like lead forms of, here's the service I want, here's how I need help. And there's other times as well where we're the single success metric is how many people can we get to buy this low end product that will then lead to other sales or services. So if you aren't clear, and if you haven't repeatedly and consistently over time communicated to your marketing folks, here's the clear objective, here's the single metric that we want to aim at first, then odds are they're all going to be wandering in different directions, regardless of how skilled they are, how awesome they are at their job, how much they want to serve you and help you. If you as the leader haven't defined that, then you're going to struggle. If you do define that and you see people wandering off the path and doing things that aren't going to generate that phone call, or doing things that aren't going to generate that first purchase that leads to other purchases, or whatever the case may be, then that's an issue of they don't know how to have a strategy, put in front of them and then execute on it. So even if you don't know the strategy or all the steps to get to the result you want, you absolutely, as the leader in your business, in my experience and opinion, you absolutely need to clearly define, here's the success metric we're aiming at. Once you have that in place, then the key is to evaluate and evaluate what results are you getting from your marketing, what results are you getting from your sales teams, because the bridge between marketing and sales is something we have to really watch as well, because you could be generating a bunch of phone calls, form fills, interest, people reaching out, but if sales doesn't have a highly effective initial outreach and follow-up process and proposal creation and presentation process, or even if you're selling a product, if you don't have good sales nurture when people get into a trial and you're not following up to make sure that they're fully utilizing your product, then you're going to just leave a ton of money on the table. So evaluating your results on a consistent basis, twice a month is usually pretty adequate for most things, but if it's early on a weekly basis, at least, maybe even more, and then if things are really stable, you could move to a monthly evaluation. But typically twice a month is how we like to meet with our clients. evaluate results, adjust, focus if something has changed in the business. And that way we're constantly putting eyes on it, having conversations about it and saying, are we hitting the metric that we set? And sometimes there are 2 success metrics or even 3, but in the ideal, we start with just one primary single success metric that we're going to push for. Once you have that single success metric, once you have the cadence and the habit of evaluating your results on a consistent basis between marketing and how it's being handed into sales, then it's time to really test and adjust until you achieve an acceptable, positive ROI on the campaign. And sometimes in some of our campaigns, when we're able to generate, calls for our personal injury attorneys for $50-$60, then that's all we need to, we know we're in good shape. We're well below the typical mark. We're getting good results. And because we know the size of a case that we typically get when somebody calls in, we know we have good ROI. Other times we have to evaluate a campaign and say, okay, we initially want the prospect to become a customer and purchase our $27, info product or intro piece, or, book, their first, test, their first like trial lesson or their trial, piece of the service or product. Then we have to look and say, okay, from a sales and internal marketing perspective, from a nurture standpoint of how we're going to nurture that person, what is going to be the lifetime value of that prospect? So if we can only spend a few dollars, let's say we spend $40 to get them to buy a $27 product, that's okay, as long as there is a process in place with our client, with the nurture, with the follow-up, that the prospect then, will move on to buy some coaching or a higher level product, or they'll keep buying that $27 product over and over for a year, right? So in order to test and adjust until you get an acceptable return on investment, your ROI, then you need to know, what is the sales process going to look like? What do I ideally want to sell them? What's the offer going to be? And how much revenue do we make? And what's the profit level? So really knowing your numbers internally, operationally, will allow you to then define, okay, we're more than willing to spend, 20% or 25% of the profit per project or per client that comes in to acquire more clients. Those types of conversations need to be had. And the easiest way to get a single success metric, to start evaluating on a consistent basis, test and adjust until you get positive ROI, is to start out with a full 12-month strategic marketing plan. Regardless of if you choose to work with us so we can build that strategy for you, if you build it internally, however you achieve that, it's really, really important to have a roadmap and a plan to follow over time, because otherwise marketing becomes an afterthought, or it's something that gets changed and adjusted and screwed with every couple of weeks or every month, and you never have any longevity in testing something, and so you never get any long-term results. So it's definitely a key, is to build that blueprint, to build that map that you're going to follow, and then execute on it, measure against your single success metric, evaluate the results, and then test and adjust until you get acceptable ROI. So those are the things that I would encourage you to put in place, to think about, because when you do that, that's where you can definitely get high performance marketing from your efforts. And if you need any help with your marketing, it's what we love serving our customers with. You can reach out at businessmarketingengine.com, and we'd be glad to talk to you. And I will see you on tomorrow's show.